The Nikki Glaser Podcast. The Nikki Glaser Podcast.
Here's Nikki.
Hello, here I am. It's the Nikki Glaser Podcast. I'm Nikki Glaser. Welcome to the show. I am joined by Brian Frangie and Anya Marina and Noah in Arizona. Brian is at his home in Los Angeles. We're all apart today, but we're together, really. It's going to sound like we're together. How is everyone today? Good?
So good.
Really? So good?
Just finished a song. I feel alive.
Oh my
It's
God.
a very rare feeling, but I feel accomplished. It will fade in 7 minutes.
So you just finished it this morning?
I just finished it like 25 minutes ago.
Oh my God. Is it like due, or was it just a song that was in you that you had to get out?
Yeah, it's due. I rejoined my songwriting group that I've been in for the last year, but I took off the last 3 months just because wedding planning was such hell.
Yeah.
And part of me was like, you know, when I asked Bob, the leader, like, can I come back after the wedding? I was like, you're not fucking coming back, girl. But I did.
Wow, you
Last
proved them
week
all
I
wrong.
asked- Yeah, I proved myself wrong and I turned in my song and I like it. And it's
Is it
just
a
like, do you
complete
guys ever
song?
feel that way? It's definitely like a great, strong first draft. It has like 3 different verses. It has a bridge.
Wow.
It's
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
a full song.
yes. Do you guys feel that way ever? Like
Accomplished?
accomplished
No.
about anything?
No. What are you talking about? No, of course. It's rare though that I know the feeling you're having right now, and I think it'll last more than, what did you say, 6 hours or 6 days?
7 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you said 7 minutes.
I can relate to that. I mean, when I finish a cartoon and then post it, then I feel that way, and then it immediately goes away. Then I'm like, I
Within
gotta do the
7
next
minutes?
one. I mean, it's like it's like less than 7 minutes. It's like immediate. It's like now I got to do the next one because time is going to continue to tick by, and no one's going to remember you.
Time
Yeah.
goes by so
So
slowly.
I mean, how social
that song
media.
took 7 minutes to write. Just kidding. I wish.
Social media does that to you more than anything, is that it makes you, it continually reminds you that no one will remember you, because if you don't post something for like, I don't know,
20 minutes.
a month, if you don't post something for a
Yeah.
month, people might think you're dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking today, if I died, how long it would take for someone to, and I'm like pretty in demand right now. And I was even like, I think it would take a few hours before people were like, maybe she's dead, you know? Like, I think first, it's funny that so many, when people do die and they miss an appointment and then they miss a lunch that they were supposed to go to, then they miss a Zoom call. At first, everyone's just pissed at them and thinks
Yeah.
they were a piece of shit, but they're just like laying dead in their room. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I knew that I was like, if I died today, my voice teacher would be like, God, once again, she forgot our lesson. Like this, she's really proud, she's going through something. Like, this is really irresponsible. It's so funny that most dead people, everyone's mad at them the first couple hours they're dead.
They're so
And how
rude.
embarrassing.
At what point do you think your friends would start wondering if you had been abducted? Or like you were in danger or like locked in a car or in some kind of peril?
I think it's if we didn't see Nikki responding to anything on the girls' chat in like, I would say 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'd be suspicious.
But sometimes my life is going so badly, I don't want to be on the, like, things are just,
Yeah.
I think girls chat that is when you should
If
start
you're
worrying.
active.
Right.
If you're active
right.
on it. But if we know you're kind of like doing your own
Yes.
thing, I would be suspicious.
For
in
a large
24
portion
hours.
of America, they wouldn't know you were dead until you made an appearance on a television show, and then in the credits it said, "In memory of Nikki Glaser."
Yeah, that's a good point.
That happens to me all the
I feel
time.
like it would be, I would have the front page of the Daily Mail at this age. If I died tragic, like there's no way if I'm dying right now, it's not going to be tragic. If it was just tomorrow, I'd make the front page of the Daily Mail for about 3 hours. You know, the lawnmower chunks of lawnmower girl, she was up there for about 3 hours when
You
I saw
gotta be
it.
better
So I
than
think,
her.
I mean, my death is not going to be more interesting than that. There's just no way. That's the most interesting death I've ever heard of in my life.
I mean, never say never. There have been some interesting deaths.
Well, I'm not going to be laying outside anytime soon. I don't like the sun. I don't want to
That's why
lay
you
out.
get spray tan.
I'm scared of ticks. the grass is itchy. That's just not gonna be where you're gonna kill me.
Well, when
But
Lance,
yeah, I
you
think
know
that-
Lance Reddick?
Who's that?
Lance Reddick,
yeah.
he was in the John Wick franchise. He made an incredible appearance on the Eric Andre show. He's been in a lot of actual like prestige things too that I didn't see. But he was in Fringe. He was in White Man Can't
Just
Jump.
tell us what happened to him. I
Oh,
need to know now.
Well, he
What is
died.
interesting?
He
Okay.
died.
Oh, damn it.
And I didn't know that he died. And he was young too. He was
Oh,
like
yeah, from The Wire.
he was in The Wire. He was in The Wire.
Oh yeah.
So drugs?
No, I didn't see that he died until I watched John Wick 4, incredible movie, and it said
then
in
there was a
memory
little-
of John Wick, in memory of Lance Reddick at the end, and I was like, what the fuck? And then
He
I
died
looked
of
it up.
heart disease.
He
Sorry.
died like 2 weeks before the movie came out of heart disease, and it
Damn
was
it.
out of nowhere. In fact, it was so out of nowhere that the family is suing like the hospital because they feel like there's just no way that there was undetected heart disease that suddenly killed him, which unfortunately is something that happens all the time. But he was like super in shape,
Not
worked out all the time.
Let's calm
Diet
down
was
here.
great.
All the time is everyone in my life right now is so scared of dying, and they just keep quoting these like freak. Then this person died, and no one knew they were going to die. Well, this has been happening forever, but it's so rare. You should worry about winning the lottery too, and having all your friends change after that, and everyone, and then you go broke and homeless because you win the the just fear of a random death or like a brain aneurysm. I also I know that I'm so lucky to not fear death. Like sometimes it catches up to me if I do like the wrong substances. Like sometimes I'll go like, whoa, fuck, I'm gonna die. Fuck, that's so scary. But to
Or
be
if you're on
plagued
a
by it,
2-lane highway.
I don't think about death. I'm just like thinking about the second before it where it's like, oh fuck! Like that moment. Like, have you ever heard the September 11th when the guy's on the phone and he's like, it's getting hard to breathe, and he just goes, no! And then it just cuts out, and you see it times with the building crumbling, and you see his floor get hit, and it just goes like, yeah! And it's just dead,
Nikki,
like silence.
I can't handle this.
Yes.
I really can't.
I mean, that's not that bad, because people always, whenever there's a Reddit that's like, what's the worst audio you've ever heard? And they always say that one. And I'm like, that one doesn't get me as bad as, but it just, that moment, I
As
don't
bad
want to,
as, like,
that's why the
Cisco's
fucking
album.
thing what was that?
As bad as like Cisco's album.
The Thong song.
That's the worst audio I've ever heard.
I think RFK Jr. talking is the worst audio I've ever heard.
What
Both
does that
in
sound
content
like?
and the way he has some kind of throat thing condition.
Yeah.
Now that I've had throat surgery, and I can hear when people's vocal cords are just using them wrong, which is pretty much my voice still. But when I hear like people, I can't even do an impression of it because I'm scared I'll injure myself.
Right.
That really bothers me. But he has a condition.
Did you hear his last speech? Oh my
No.
God. He was like, let me see that thong. That thong, the thong, thong, thong.
I'm trying to think of the worst song I can think of. It's like
Can you
the
believe
most
there's a
painful to
behind the
listen to.
music on that song? There's like the
There is?
making of the song.
Oh yeah,
I watched
loved
it. It was interesting, but I'm like, I can't believe this exists.
I have a question. Do you
Yeah.
remember when it was trendy to wear your thong over your jeans? Did any of you
Over?
partake in that?
No, oh my
No,
God,
I mean,
I was
like,
never
leaking
like
out?
doing
Stick it out.
anything to draw
Oh, yeah.
attention to me being a sexual being at any point in my life, except no, that would you know what? Did you do that? There's no way you did.
For sure,
No.
Noah did.
There was a wrestler, her
What?
name is Lita, and she used to wear like these baggy cargo pants and her thong would stick out. And I used to think that was so cool, but there was no way I could pull that off.
Yes,
You
you could.
could.
You have the best ass. Are you insane?
Yeah, you have the best like waist to ass ratio of anyone I know. And so
WTA.
you, if anyone, could pull it off. You look like you had a BBL. You really do. You look like you had fat sucked out of your waist and put in your ass. It's perfect.
Which is a compliment.
Yeah, it's
Thank
a total
you.
compliment. You have,
Yeah.
you have a great waist to hip. But no, yeah, I do remember that being I just remember the first time I ever felt like really insulted when I remember I was like sitting up on this shelf, like I'm sitting up on the counter in chemistry class, like when we were waiting for the bell to ring. And this guy came up to me and said I had thighs like what? And I was like, I like cried later on that night because he was quoting that song. And my thighs, whenever you sit as a woman, your thighs just spill into a pool that you can't control, and it makes you feel so fat no matter how thin you are. And that is, your thighs just get loose and then they just turn into a gelatinous puddle right in front of you, no matter how.
So he said you have thighs like what?
That's from the Thong
look at Nikki.
song.
She's got thighs like what? Yes.
Maybe it was a compliment.
Yeah, probably was. I mean, everything in that song's a compliment, but that was before white women were trying to have like thick bodies.
Right.
And
So
now
you're
it's
like,
very...
I'm trying to be Kate Moss.
Yeah, me telling Noah that she has a like good size, like has juice in her ass is like a compliment. But back in the 2000s, for a white girl to early 2000s,
If
you
said-
did not want an ass.
If you said
at
someone
all.
had juice in their ass in the early 2000s, that means they had to go to the hospital.
Someone injected juice in your ass. Yeah, it's body but now thin is getting back in. So that was a little bit like on the borderline of like, is that insulting to Noah to tell her that? Because now everyone doesn't want an ass again. Because trends change, like eyebrows. Thick 1 second, thin the next.
Yeah, what is it now?
Hip huggers, mom jeans. What is what?
What's the
now it's
latest
like
on
somewhere in
eyebrows?
between. There's still girls that want BBLs, and then there's now it's getting back into like kind of with hip huggers coming back, Twiggy style. Because
Now, what about
low-waisted
eyebrows?
jeans rob you of an ass. Oh, eyebrows. For like girls who are just so striking, it doesn't matter what they do. Thin is back in,
Oh, really?
but thick is still probably what most women are going for. Is like a more full brow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel
That's
like-
what I still fill mine in. I'm not going thin anytime soon.
The thick brow, I feel like, is a recent thing. Like, I feel like it's like Emily in Paris is when thick brow became popular.
And they're falling away again.
Wow.
Like
Well,
centipede
Brooke
brows.
Shields, when she was a child, and pedophilia was like, isn't just the hottest new thing. I mean, she was considered the most beautiful child / young lady. What was she, 13? Disgusting. But her brows were thick. And then there was a study that came out that said that men actually are genetically, biologically attracted to a woman with full brows because it indicates fertility.
Really?
Yeah, that's everything. Anything men are attracted to is an indicator of fertility. Always.
Yeah.
Juice in the ass.
Juice in the ass.
Yeah,
Having
probably.
childbearing hips. Having like
Tiny waist.
Because first of all, you can't get pregnant if you're underweight. And so like the idea that men are attracted to waif like
Yes.
men aren't, gay men and women like waif. And they set the style standard, like, Vogue. Who's that mean bitch from Vogue?
Anna
The one that
Wintour?
never smiles and has a horrible haircut. Anna Wintour.
Anna Wintour?
Yeah, she's the one. She's setting what the standard for beauty is, and she's, that she's not a man who wants to get any woman pregnant. So, but I think generally men were never into. There's some men that are into it, that are into the waif look. Like last night, I was gooning.
You're back to gooning?
I'm back on it because I got my trick, man. You can just smile and it goes away.
Wow. How long?
I went probably like 35 minutes last night,
Oh,
and
that's
then I
good
did
goon.
another
What?
set for about 30. Yeah, I was
You're
bored last night. I had
back.
nothing to do.
How much of a break between?
Probably like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Not
it's
bad.
different than a
Like,
I
guy.
never go
Working.
twice in a night. That's like not. I would never
Yeah.
ever do that. It's never happened for me in my life. But I have nothing to do right now in my life, or I do have a ton. There's like desperate emails that are waiting to be responded to, and so I have.
You're
there,
like,
yeah,
I
there's-
gotta, I'm
people that
gooning.
are
You should
literally
just
like-
put your email signature, change your email signature to I'm gooning, like
Yeah.
an out of
Goonin',
office
rather be
reply.
goonin'. Yeah. I mean, I was doing a lot of that last night. And so, but there was a whole genre of men fucking anorexic girls. Because I clicked on one video where the girl was kind of thin, and just because I liked all the other content in it. But it happened to be like this guy, and it said anorexic girl in the, she was an anorexic. I could tell. I was like, no, she's just a thin woman. But like, I was like, oh my God, as soon as I clicked on that, all the videos underneath it that it suggests is like a barrage of anorexic porn. It's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
So
I
it's
was just like, and then
popular.
I was like looking at them. I'm like, God, I could never enjoy watching this because I know these women are just so hungry. There's no way when you're hungry.
Hungry for that
sex-
dick.
No, they're not. There's no way. Because when you're hungry, that's the number one thing you think about. Viktor Frankl in that Man's Search for Meaning, the book about
Oh,
his time
God.
and the Holocaust.
That's also on Nikki Bingo. Oh, it's not? Okay, never mind.
No, but 9/11 I think probably is. I didn't mention Columbine yet, but he even says in the book, and so I'm not trying to be gross here. He's like, people sometimes ask, like, we were all naked all the time and we were living amongst each other in these bunks. Were you guys like banging? And he's like, no, because we were starving. You don't think anything sexual when you're starving. There's nothing else you care about because you can't even make babies when you're starving. So what's the point of wanting to have sex? Your body is number one. We got to get some fat on our bodies, then we can conceive. So,
also,
I don't understand the anorexic subgenre, but people are into fucking everything on there. And I just was surprised at it. And I felt really bad for these women because I like to watch porn where the woman is having a good time and enjoying herself, or so it seems. She's a good enough actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew these girls were just like thinking about when they could eat next. And I just knew that they weren't having a good time. That's the only porn that I know for a fact the girl isn't having a good time. Or maybe she is because she's distracted by the dick, so she's not, obsessed with food.
Yeah,
Right.
and should probably have a nice meal at the end of it.
No, anorexics do never let themselves have a meal. And if it is, it's like a head of iceberg lettuce and it's no fun, like dipped in mustard, and it's no fun.
Well,
I
guess
guess they could relate to that.
anorexic porn. I just imagine there's like a chicken parm meal off camera.
Right off camera?
Yeah, ready to go.
There's just like tasty delight in the corner. Local peanut butter flavor. You just made me remember something from a time when I was not anorexic, but I was very thin. I was super depressed. I had had a terrible breakup. I was smoking like a chimney. I was so sad all the time. And I remember getting a mani-pedi, and this woman, the Vietnamese lady, was like asking me all these questions, always the same questions, like, you know Mary? I'm like, no, I'm not married. And she's like, you look sick. And I'm like, I do? She's like,
So
men
honest.
don't like that. It's like, I'll never forget her telling me, you look sick. I'm like, I'm not. And she goes, you look sick. Men don't like that.
They can't help it.
But
If you want some
maybe it's
honesty,
true.
go get your nails done.
Yeah. What have you been told at the salon?
Why
that
you old
rang
lady
true?
hands?
Oh yeah.
Louis C.K., I was listening to his special this past weekend, like the latest, not the latest one, but the one from 2021 where he kind of references his, jerking off in front of women. But anyway, he was talking about, he's talking about going to a sushi restaurant, and she's like, you finish? And he's like, and by the way, yes, I'm going to do the accent because it would sound insane if I was like, and she came up and said, you finish? Like if he didn't do, he was like, that would just sound crazy. And I like that, like, when is it inappropriate to do the accent?
Come
when is it not?
on,
He
let
can
us
get away
do
with
it.
anything because
Let
he's
us
been
do
canceled.
Asian accents again, please.
I was reluctant, but I
If it
just had
sounds
to.
like it, what is the problem? That's if it's. I don't know. I'm kind of.
I used to.
of
Okay,
the
this is. I used
thought
to.
of if it sounds like, then why can't you do an impression of it?
There's a song I made up. I used to sing this to my dog because he had these treats called. I can't even do this. I can't do this on. This is a
Yeah,
cancel.
We're not gonna make you.
No, this is a cancel thing.
I won't make you.
Yeah, but there was this song I would sing to my dog because there was this treats called lamb lung. Have you ever had lamb lung?
Oh God, is
Ew,
that what it is?
It's lamb lung. It's dried
Probably.
lamb lung, and
Jesus Christ.
well, it's not waste. It's good because it doesn't waste. But
Yeah.
I would sing a song for my dog whenever
I
it
like
was
it
time.
better because it's telling you what it is. I like
Yeah.
anything that's honest. Okay, lamb lung. Go.
Anyway, I would sing it, and then at a certain point, it wasn't my fault, but at a certain point, it would sound like I was impersonating an Asian person because lamb lung already kind of sounds like some kind of Asiatic language.
Yes.
But so I would sing the song,
And
it
don't
would-
they do L's instead of R's or something? So it sounds like you're saying ram. Or no, never mind. I'm
Anyway,
gonna
this
shut up.
is canceled. I don't want to get canceled, but I would sing the song, and then at a certain point, there was a threshold where it was like, I think this song just became racist. But it starts off not racist. It's just like lamb lung. But then at a certain point, it starts to sound racist. And so I think that's the threshold we're all in search of. Anyway,
think
can we
you-
please delete
yes.
this?
No, you don't need to
No,
delete
there's
it. You have said
nothing
nothing
racist
wrong.
here.
But there is that thought of like, when is it honest and when is it racist?
Yeah.
Like, if you're doing an impression of someone who is speaking broken English in a Asiatic accent. Are you, and you're nailing it. Are you telling the story more authentically, or are
Here's
you
a
being
question.
racist?
What if, so like my dad's life
We'll
partner.
answer this when we get back because we have to go to break.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
What is your dad's life partner? Yes.
My
She's
dad's,
Asian. Yes.
My dad's life partner's Chinese, and she has a thick Chinese accent. If I did a stand-up joke where I, frequently people reference their parents, their step-parents. If I referenced her and I wanted to impersonate her, is that allowed?
No.
Depends.
Unless you're Louis C.K. and you've already been canceled and you don't give a fuck. Like, that is what I will say. That's what's great about listening to Louis C.K. is that there is no trying to be PC at all.
Yeah.
It's once you're canceled, like, he just has no fear anymore. So it's kind of nice. And I don't think he's inherently a horrible person. I think he's a narcissist, and I think he's but I don't think he can help that, and I don't think he's totally shown enough
Remorse.
he's kind of still, that's the word I'm looking for. But he's also free to say whatever the fuck he wants, and there was some freedom in that. So I don't know. We'll talk about anything else but this when we get back. All right, we're back. So we talked about how long we think it would be until. Well, Anya, you live with someone, and so do you, Noah. So they would discover you dead quicker than, and so do you, Brian. So you have partners. That's why we have partners. Is that so if we die, people know sooner than before we start to smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we were talking about yesterday, we lived in villages. We were all connected. We had many people around us that knew our whereabouts.
Yes. But it is funny to me that people would be mad at you at first when
Frequently,
you're dead, and
it's
then
like
they
a
feel so
neighbor.
bad. Huh?
A neighbor will smell you.
Yeah.
There was one time one of my neighbors died, and it just stank. And
You'll never forget that smell, right?
Yeah,
That's the
and-
smell that they always talk about, the smell of death. I've never smelled a dead body. Have you guys? Besides Brian?
I have on the subway. I told the story on the podcast before.
Oh, yeah.
Saw a stiff body.
And do you know this?
Oh
Can
my
can you conjure the smell right now in your head? Like, is it stayed with you?
Well, I wonder if Brian has the same memory. It's kind of like this, it smelled like a really potent chemical, as if like I mixed ammonia with something else.
oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really know what that would smell like, but
It didn't smell
that
like
sounds okay.
garbage. It just smelled like a really bad chemical.
Yeah.
Have you smelled a dead
Right.
mouse ever?
Yes, for sure.
That smell I couldn't get out of my head for months once. Finding a dead mouse. I remember like something is awry, and then I turned into like a hound dog, like sniffing around my apartment, just like sniffing under the TV, and I was like, it's under here, and I lifted up the TV, and there was a dead mouse.
I
Oh,
can't
it's the
handle dead
worst,
animals.
except
Can
when
you
it's in
guys?
winter.
Like if you had to remove a dead animal.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I mean, I'm sad that they died because the mouse always looks like, they always look like they kind of die in the look of pain that they were in. And it makes me so sad. But I don't mind death as much as I mind suffering. So as long as they're not like still twitching, I don't care. But you don't want to touch a dead animal because of like the disease that's possibly within it. It's probably smart of you.
I
to not
think
wanna.
that's what it is. I don't know why I just get so emotional. Like sometimes we'll have birds fly into the window of our house. I know. And then they're dead. And I just, like every time I look down and I see them, I just scream and I run away. And then I ask Avi to take care of it. I will
will say that when I'm driving down the road, I have a similar
Yes.
thing where if I see roadkill like coming
Yes.
up, I put my hand up and I block it until it goes. But I'm more scared of, I guess I'm just scared of seeing like a cat's head twisted, like, like I just think about the asshole who probably like tried to hit it. And I don't think that happens all the time, but I have been in the car with people in high school. I'm not going to name names, but one of them's in our girls' chat who tried to hit a squirrel. And I remember being like, I can't be friends with this person anymore. And she's since changed and she's horrified when I told her of that story. She was like, no, I didn't. I'm like, do you think I would make that up? Do you think I would want you to want to hit a squirrel? But I remember you trying to go for it.
Yeah.
And not in like I'm a serial killer way. I think
No.
she was just full of teen angst
Yeah.
and like,
She lacked the wherewithal of every teenager.
yeah, she wasn't. We don't think of, and as a teenager, you're not as compassionate.
No.
And
God,
I was
think of all
trying to
the
think.
dumb shit you did as a teen.
I mean,
I drove
I'm-
drunk so many times.
As a
Fast
teen?
and drunk. Yes.
what about later on?
Yeah, definitely that too. But yeah.
I did not drive.
I
See, I
shudder to
never
think.
understand. Tell me this. Okay, so you in your past have driven drunk. No one's going to come after you. Statute of limitations is way past, okay? And we're all joking on here, so anything can be taken as satire, and you're not actually talking about your past. But say you did drive drunk in your past. Why the fuck would you drive erratically? Whenever I had maybe any kind of alcohol in me, even if it was below the limit, I am driving like a student driver on her driver's test. I'm driving too cautiously. Who are these maniacs? You had a death wish, I'm guessing.
Have you ever had this thing where you drive so well and then you drop someone off, and the second you're alone in the car, you just start driving like a maniac, or you're like a little more reckless?
Mm-hmm.
It was that. It was like, I lived on a mountain up. You've never been to the house where I grew up, but I lived up a windy road in Northern California.
I understand.
So-
Okay, if there's no cops
You
around.
But also like so you're in the privacy of your own weird
Yes.
mountain.
I get that. Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, I know how to take these turns. I don't need to follow the lines. I don't need to stay within this. Like, and it's 2 a.m.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just remember thinking, you're insane.
I've been doing that every night.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? What was the town?
Cupertino.
Oh, Cupertino. Oh, right. The apple icon. Now I
Yeah. So
remember.
like
Yes.
the Santa Cruz Mountains and like the mountain ranges there, they're all kind of like windy. There's no lights,
Mhm.
and the kids are crazy up there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
I
just
learned to
never-
drive up there.
But I definitely did some reckless things in my past that are embarrassing, but I never tried to intentionally crush a squirrel beneath
Will
the
you
tires
tell
of
us?
my car. I mean,
Or-
I always got drunk at this bar, like probably a quarter mile, a half a mile tops from my apartment.
Mm.
And I would definitely, and there was one time I remember being, oh man, I don't even want to talk about it because I'm so mad at myself. It's way worse than trying to hit a squirrel, but I had precious cargo in my car and people I love very much and who were depending on me to drive, and I was wasted and drove so far. And I was actually seeing Louis C.K. that night at Stanford and Sons.
Wow.
In 2000, probably 4 or 5. And I got so drunk at this show, and then I had to drive home, and I remember thinking, this is it. Like, you never get to do this again. And I never did it again. After that, I think I drove maybe with like where it was questionably over the limit. But, and that is really why I quit drinking. It's actually why I moved to New York, or I didn't go back to Los Angeles. I left Los Angeles in 2009. I was drinking a ton, always making that quarter mile drive back and forth. This was before Uber, and I couldn't afford cabs, and all of my friends were wasted too. I mean, excuses. I should have walked. I mean, this is horrifying for me to even relive. But
Walk. Nobody walks in LA.
no, and it would have to be under this like overpass where a bunch of homeless people were camped out. Even back then, they were ahead of the trend that is now on every corner here. But I remember thinking I'm going to get a DUI, and I used to hear the stories like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So if you keep doing this, it will happen. You will get caught. And I didn't have $10 to my name, let alone $10,000 that I knew it would instantly deprive me of. And the disappointment of my family, it was all looming, and I knew it was going to happen. So when I moved back home to St. Louis, I had just had friends drive me everywhere. I was not drunk. I don't remember drunk driving in St. Louis, maybe because I was blackout and don't remember it. But I do remember going to New York being like, this is where I'm going to be safe and I can't drive here and I can't bring my car. And I remember being like, yes, now I can just drink with abandon because that thing that's always looming is not anymore. But that's where I ended up quitting drinking. I'm so glad. Now when I get pulled over, I remember the first time getting pulled over after I had quit drinking, I was excited because I was like, there's nothing to worry about. If I did anything
Yes.
wrong, it's that I didn't
sped.
stop fully at a stop sign, or I'm speeding 10 miles over the limit. I'm not drunk driving, which is the most horrible thing you can most selfish, horrible thing you could ever do. And I just felt like, good, pull me over. I'm doing nothing wrong. It felt so good. And then one time this cop pulled me over and he said it smelled like beer. And I had not been drinking. I said, I have a Diet A&W in the fucking console. And he made me get out and do a sobriety test on the side of the road in the middle of the day in North Hollywood. That was when I was back in LA. It was so embarrassing. So embarrassing.
You're like, it's a dead mouse. It's in the back of my car.
Just my breath.
That's an emotion
yeah.
that only us whites can feel.
I was just thinking
Is being happy
yeah.
that we get pulled over.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
I have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
I understand my privilege with that statement, but yeah, if you're not drinking, like you have so many less worries in life. Like there's no waking up and being like, who did I text? It's just so much worry evaporates instantly.
Also more cash,
anxiety or
cash
like,
in your wallet.
oh, and all the money that you save. But
Fewer
you stop
cigarettes.
dancing. You stop going, the girls are here. Woo! Like you have no enthusiasm ever again the rest of your life for any time as someone you like enters a bar. You'll never one time be like, look who's here. Like you'll never care as much as you did when you're drunk. So there's things I miss. It's harder to be intimate with people. All those things. There are things that you go, oh, this kind of sucks and you have to get used to. But in terms of all the anxiety, like you feel like a void of anxiety. You almost look for things to make you anxious because it's just you're so free of them. But I always say like the most embarrassing thing is like being cheated on. Even John Mulaney, I was listening to a lot of stand-up this weekend to be inspired, and John Mulaney had a bit about like when you're drunk, when you get sober, you lose the best excuse in the world, which is I was wasted, and you get out of everything. I mean, it's embarrassing, but at least you're like, oh, that wasn't me. And people kind of give you a get out of jail free card. And, but then when you quit, like, you just have to be like, no, I'm loud and obnoxious. Sorry. Whatever he said. But I used to have the bit of, when you cheat on someone, if as long as the person's drunk, you can go like they were drunk, we all, if you've been drunk, you do things that it's not like your true self comes out like, you just do stupid stuff. I think in some cases, yes, your true self comes out and you get to do things that you secretly really want to do. But I think a lot of people make horrible mistakes that they would never make sober when they're drunk. And you get to excuse it. But if someone gets cheated on, you're like, John, you cheated on me. And you're like, well, how wasted were you? And he's like, I was sober. You're like, oh, you just hate me. Oh, you just have no respect for me. Like getting cheated on when the person is sober has got to feel so much worse than if they're drunk.
You could always blame your mental health.
Anya raises her hand.
Yeah, it happened to me.
Did you
That's what
did
I
you wish
learned
he was
about-
drunk? Did you have that moment of like, but you were drunk, right? And he's like, no.
Yeah, I was like, you were doing this in the afternoon on a Sunday.
Oh, right.
But then I learned like, sex addiction is its own thing.
Its own
like, it's so strange. It's like you hate what you're doing. You're compelled to do this many times more than anyone would need to do it with people you can't stand. So it's like, oh, it's a true addiction, which I don't really like. I've always rolled my eyes at sex addiction. Like, come on, are you really? But then you meet people that really are.
How can
and
you?
you're like,
You relate to like eating something that you're like, I'm not even hungry. This is disgusting. I don't want it. It's in the trash. I'm eating it.
But it's such a
I'm
hacky
embarrassed
thing
I'm
you
eating
hear
it.
all the time. Like comics being like, really, sex addiction? That's not a thing.
I know, and it bothers me because I really do think it's a thing. It's first of all, sex gives you. I shouldn't have masturbated twice last night, but I was bored and I needed some dopamine, and I was like craving. I didn't want to eat, so I was like, I'll just come. Like it's the same kind of shoots off things in your brain that make you feel real good.
Yeah, but you could be addicted to
obviously has
anything.
addictive
I mean, you could.
Yes.
You could be addicted to. I mean, obviously, like gambling and stuff, but you could be addicted to just like you be addicted to exercise. There's everything in. I do think that there is like a slippery slope here of diagnosing everything that's just human behavior. Like, oh, you hit your wife a lot. That's because you're addicted to hitting. It's like that could anything could be excused by mental health, which is, it's a slippery slope. I don't know. I'm not going to speak to it very much more than that.
Well, if
I'm
No
with
Free
you.
Will, if you read Free Will, everything is your mental condition. Everything is things firing in your brain that you have no control over. So you can always have that excuse. Like the example he gives that I always like to give is when that one guy, there was a mass shooter in Texas in like the 40s that went up to like a clock tower and just picked off a bunch of people. And everyone was like, how could he do this? And then he killed himself. Like, I think he died somehow he died where his brain was still intact. And then they opened up his brain to go, what was going on with this guy? And they found a fucking tumor on some part of his brain. And they go, oh my God, he didn't want to do this. This wasn't his fault. He had a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
This was this was an external thing. This wasn't from in him. But if you look at anything you do ever, where you go to pick up a box of crackers, where the way you lay your head on a pillow, anything that you think is the way you chose your partner, it's all chemicals in your brain firing that you have no choice of. So why do we let that guy off the hook? Because he had a tumor when really everything in your brain is something that you do not control, and it's all things firing that you have zero control over. That is the essential argument there.
Well, I agree.
So mental illness or not, tumor or not, your brain's doing things you can't control.
That's just existence. Is if you eliminate, that's just the central tenet of existence, that everything is in your brain, that your brain is you. But the thing I don't like about it is when you use that to let people off the hook, as opposed to what you just said, which is saying everyone's responsible for what they're doing, despite the fact that you don't have control over anything because of your brain. But yeah,
they're not responsible. No, you get punished for things to set an example to society, because although humans do not choose what goes on in their brain, your brain is something that's operating in order for you to survive at optimally. Now, there are anomalies that happen that make you do things that will increase your chance for not surviving, but that's like, those are rare things that are happening in your brain that, like, if you do something stupid like drunk drive, like that's not optimally surviving. Like there's a substance you're introducing that's making your brain not work. Now, if you if we then put people in jail who murder, the real reason to do it is not to punish them, because they couldn't really help that they murdered, even though you think they can. Their brain did a thing and they can't help it. And it seems like they chose it. That's why we have first degree murder or second, like we have degrees of it, because it's like first degree means you chose it and you planned it and you Googled all this stuff. Them Googling, they were always going to do it. Okay. So that's how I believe. But Sam Harris's point is that we punish these people because our brains see that punishment and go, well, I don't want to spend my life in prison. So I will adapt, and the firings in my brain will adapt to avoid that behavior, because at most you're still an organism that's trying to survive and your brain is still trying to keep you alive. So we punish people to set an example, but we don't punish people to actually go, you are bad. Shame on you, which we do, but we shouldn't be doing that. It should only be as to protect people, because this person's obviously mentally ill and they make bad decisions and they're going to drink again. They're going to drink. So we need to protect them from society. But to punish someone, that's why the death penalty is kind of stupid, because this person couldn't help that they were deeply abused as a child or whatever led them to be.
But isn't the death penalty also a deterrent? Like society will fear getting into
But we
those
also would
kinds
fear
of
spending
crimes.
our life in prison. So why do you got to make it death?
If you believe in studies show that the death penalty does not deter crimes from being happened. That's what the studies
First of all,
have shown.
I would love to be put to death if I was given life in prison. 100. Who wouldn't? Why would you ever want to spend your life in? I'm spending my life right now in this place I'm staying at, where I kind of feel trapped in for myriad reasons that I'll get into at another time. But I just feel like I can't really leave. I feel, and my mental health is fucking plummeting because I'm in like a room with not a lot of lighting. I just went outside when we had 10 minutes to spare, and I just walked around on the grass and like did grounding and like was in the sun, because I was like, oh, I'm starting to, my cells are starting to die because I haven't gotten enough sunlight recently. I've been sitting on my ass too much. That's why I'm sitting on the floor. I'm just like trying to get near the ground. But yeah, would you guys rather be life in prison or put to death?
If I was on death
Probably put to
row,
death.
I would want that meal, baby. I've been waiting for that meal.
And I don't think they're going to nail the meal for you. Isn't that weird that we like show one? Do they really, like, if you want some fucking meal that you had when you were a kid,
It's
do they
so
go
silly.
to that fast food restaurant in
Yeah.
Destin, Florida and find it for you and have it overnighted? No.
I doubt it. It's like
No, you
cold
probably get to choose
donuts.
from like a pizza or whatever you had for lunch yesterday. Like
know.
there's no last meal.
Oh,
Is
If
man.
I had friends though in jail and I was like getting a degree, I'd want to be kept alive.
Yeah, you could
But
become a
you
librarian.
never get out.
Yeah, I want to hang out with my friends, my jail friends, and if I was safe.
That's
but
a
if
good
I was like
point.
constantly in danger and like
Yeah,
I'm gonna get shanked or raped, just put me to death. But I'm scared of the electric chair. I'll be honest.
well, it's not. I don't think that's how they do
It's
it
usually with like
much anymore, except in like
drugs.
really backward states.
Like they do
they
to
do drugs
animals.
that like don't really work, and the person's just like frothing
Yeah.
out the mouth, and they have to like inject more.
Strangling.
Mm-hmm.
Guillotine was invented because they were looking for a more humane way to kill people, and the guillotine is probably
That's
what I would
fast.
want. Because it's not as like horrible as like having your head shot, or like hanging's got to be the fucking worst.
Oh yeah, then
Oh my
you're
God.
oh boy.
When people kill themselves that way, I'm just, I always say I don't have a gun in my possession because I just don't trust my brain to like not use that someday to do something horrible to myself. Even though I don't think I'd do it, that would be a way in which I would probably choose to do that if I had to. Let's say the world was ending and someone put a gun to my head to put a gun to my head, I would probably put a gun to my head. But I'm not someone who's like, I can't have rope in my house. Like I have many things I could hang myself with in this room. And I thought about that the other day. I'm like, would I never have a gun in my room? Because it's too immediate. I would never. And when I hear about these people who hang themselves, I just think how fucking horrible that it's just. Please don't do that to yourself ever, anyone. And I hear that it's a lot of the times people who hang themselves are really trying to erotic asphyxiate.
Yeah, it's a mistake.
They're gooning.
They're
They're
gooning.
gooning.
There's a lot of things you can use to kill yourself. I mean, it doesn't have to be a rope. There's a lot of medicine that you could use. You could crush up cherry pits. Kill yourself with
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's so
Oh, yeah,
easy
we
to
forgot about
My
die.
that.
dad can come over and help you.
Yeah.
Your dad
Just
can come
spit
over
in
and
your
have
trail
some
mix.
mixed nuts. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my God.
anyway, I did something really
Disgusting.
embarrassing. Going back to the embarrassing thing.
Oh yeah.
To maybe lighten the mood a little. I did something really embarrassing in college that I lived next to this girl who I had a crush on in college. I was in a house and there was a house next to us, and it's really weird living. Have you ever lived next door to someone you have a crush on? It's
No.
really it's
That would be
stressful.
my dream.
I know.
Well, you'd think
That's
you're like
my
constantly going to
dream.
run into them, but then it like doesn't happen for like weeks and
What
weeks.
about you, your wife? She's in the next room. You guys don't share a bedroom.
That you have a crush on.
I know crushes. Why can't you have a crush on your spouse? It's always just like, oh, hi. Like
Yeah.
you used to be like obsessed with her and like whatever. Okay, so you living next to a crush. It would be
I
my
love
dream.
my
I
spouse.
don't think I've never done that.
I lived next
Have
to
you
her.
ever found a dead spouse?
Pick it up by its tail.
Sorry.
I love my spouse. I hope she lives longer than me. Anyway, I was living next door to my crush, and there was a big rainstorm. And next to my house was like a drainage river. Like one of those rivers that's like filled with trash most of the time, but it's still a river.
Is it a wash?
Okay.
It was like
a
yeah.
wash?
It was a real river. It was called the
Oh.
Jordan River in Bloomington, Indiana, and it was a river. It's since been cemented over, this portion of the river. It was just like a ditch. It was a part of the river that it was like a ditch filled with trash. But it rained so much that it was flowing like crazy. And I saw my roommate was outside just looking at the river, and then my crush came out of her house and she went out to look at the river, and everyone was marveling at how amazing the river was. And so I came out and I was like,
This is like a white trash fantasy romantics, like river of garbage.
it gets much more white trashy. So I go out and I like, oh, this is my chance to impress my crush. So I walk out with an empty keg because we had like a party recently. I had an empty keg and I went,
And you threw it into the river.
no, worse. I said, I'm going to ride this keg down the river.
No. wait, no. Because you were so desperate for attention from her.
Yeah, I was like, hey, look at me. I'm fun. I'm exciting. What am I going to do? I take the keg.
This is so dangerous.
I know. I straddle the keg like a horse and I jump into the river.
What?
Yeah, I straddle the keg like a
Oh.
horse.
I see, like the keg is a horse,
Like the
not
keg
like
is-
you
Yeah.
are the horse.
Yes. Yeah, I put the keg on top of me like I'm a horse. No, I straddle the keg like a horse and I jump into the river and I start flowing down. I'm like, oh my God. And I instantaneously you can't control yourself on it. It's not like a bucket bronco.
you thought it would be like a cartoon of a guy
yeah.
that's just bobbing up and down, riding this thing perfectly
Yes.
down
yes.
the river. Yes.
I'm riding down the river. I immediately flop over and I scrape my leg against like some trash, like a shopping cart or something. The keg squirts away. It just rushes down the river, and I climb out of the river bleeding. My leg is gashed and bloody.
Oh my God, I have a vaginal wink.
and I'm like, help,
Anya's winking.
help, help me. And the crush is horrified.
What did you imagine happening? Like in your mind, did you like think at all before this? Like, did you have a fantasy of what she would think?
I was thinking the same thing your friend was thinking when she tried to run over that squirrel, which is nothing.
Oh, nothing. You had no plan.
I was like 19 or whatever, and I thought that this girl would be so impressed by my adventurous spirit that she would immediately see that I was the one that she should be banging.
And
Keg boy.
Yeah,
you just
keg
crawled
boy.
out of the river like a
I
wet,
crawled out of the
bleeding rat.
river bleeding. Help me. I said, help me.
Thank
And
God
she
you
was-
didn't die. I mean,
And
you
she
could
was
have
like,
drowned.
anything could have happened. I could have, no,
College
no.
kids are so dumb.
The more likely
you
thing that
survive?
could have happened, which I'm surprised it didn't, was I could have gotten an infection. This is a
Yes.
filthy, trash-filled river, and I just cut myself on a rusty shopping cart, probably. How did I not get an infection? And
You could have just talked to her.
I know.
You stood next to her and maybe even like brushed your like shoulders together to be like, wow, look at that. And like pointed at something and your shoulders would touch and she would feel a rush and
Yeah,
she would
no.
like be excited. And you could have just like stood next to her. Instead, you like hurled yourself into this
I'm going to ride this keg down the river.
catastrophe
But
waiting to
guys
happen.
do that all the time. Guys that like you do dumb shit all the time. That's the opposite of what you want them to do.
Yes.
You're like, just touch me or talk to me. But instead, they're like drinking with their friends or like
Standing on a
making
table.
Or that guy who jumped off the end of that boat and died.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he was
Yeah.
trying to impress a
So
girl.
sad.
That's
Well,
not
that's
so
what
far
I
off.
said, and my boyfriend Chris was very. He was like, he used it as an example recently of how we see things so differently. He's like, I would have been that guy in high school, and it wouldn't have been to impress girls. It would have been to like be the fun guy, and you would have had this story about me forever of I was trying to impress a girl, but I wasn't. I'm like, but you were trying to impress men. What's the fucking difference? Like you're trying to be like a fun guy. He's like, no, I would have just done it for fun. I'm like, what's the fucking difference? You know, come on. And that guy probably was trying to impress girls. Everything we do is for the opposite sex and to get love and protection
Mhm.
from people and acceptance. Why else would you jump off a boat into shark-infested waters? You were trying to come off as the fun guy. Was this like a persona that you were trying to pursue for a while? Like, I'm the fun guy. Was there like maybe someone you were admiring that was more like this? Was this during the time of Jackass? Where did you feel like those guys were getting laid a lot or something?
I was just a different person at this age in college. Freshman, sophomore year, this was before the pains came. This is the big difference. I was a different guy filled with hope and joy. And then
if you
the
don't know,
pains
Brian
came.
is in chronic pain, everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, you know, it ebbs and flows. But before this time, I was filled with hope and optimism and energy, and honestly, like a little bit too much. And the pains kind of put me in a median place that was more acceptable to society, but also not worth the pain. But back then, I would do all sorts of things to be like, I'm the crazy wild guy, or I'm here to have fun, or I'm the tough. And also, I was a New Yorker coming to Indiana, and so everyone viewed
So
me.
you just show them like
Yeah,
what New York was about.
Yeah, everyone was like, "Do you ride a taxi to school?" And I was like, "No," but I was like the tough New Yorker guy, even though I like maybe got into one fight in high school.
Was this who you really were, or were you trying to adopt an identity back then and like figure out the kind of person you were? Like, was that the person you wanted to be? Because I think we all relate to
I
college
was
in that time. Or do you think it was really who you were?
The one thing that I'm very proud of, that I stand by, that has been a consistency throughout my life, is that I've always been the funny guy, like the guy that tried to make people laugh. And I really appreciate that. I always knew that about myself, that that's what I wanted to do, and that was my like passion or whatever.
I'm so
And
jealous of that
yeah,
because I did not relate to being the funny one until I started doing this as a career. And now it's like, you're the funny one and I'm just not. And people expect me, I think, to be all the time. And I can be because I'm very harsh and people find that to be funny. I can be honest and blunt, but I was never like going for the joke, trying to make people laugh. And I'm always I was listening to Tim Dillon's podcast this weekend, and he said that he at one point realized he wasn't going to be hot, and he's not dumb. He says he has this podcast that he did this weekend with Andy Letterman, and he's just saying like hot and dumb are the best things to be in life. You don't want to be hot and smart, because if you're hot and smart, you want people to take you seriously, but they're not going to, and they're not, and that. But if you're hot and dumb, that's the best you could ever be, is hot and dumb. And he makes a really good argument for it. But he said that he wishes if he could be reborn, he would just focus on looking hot and just doing enough drugs to make him stupid, and his life would be great. He just has to work out a ton and eat well and just focus on being hot. Don't read. Don't educate yourself. Just lean into the gym and your appearance, and that's it. And you'll have the happiest life possible. And I think he's onto something. But then he said that at one point he chose, I'm going to be the funny one. That's going to be my personality. And I don't think I ever chose that. I don't think that was. I'm trying to think of who I tried to be in. I think in college I tried to be maybe the funny one, but it wasn't even like I was a funny one. I was just like trying to. I've always just tried to be the nice one that people want to be friends with. I think that's the person I was always trying to be.
So was comedy like you just honed a skill and became so good at it that it was just like, well, I'm going to do this all the time. I'm just so good at it.
Well, I knew I was a good writer. I got a 5 on the AP English exam.
Holy
that was like
shit.
That was the moment I was like, because my teacher she was the one that when September 11th happened during her class, and I was like, what's the World Trade Center? And she goes, you don't know what the World Trade Center. She like really was furious that I was such an idiot. And she just never really was that big of a fan of me. And then I was one of the only kids to get a 5 on the AP English exam, and she's the one that gets the test results and calls you. And I remember her being very upset that I got a 5 and other people didn't, and her just being very shocked and like, you got a 5, and everyone was kind of surprised. But then
she sounds cool.
Yeah, she was.
Did you think you were cheating?
She was scary. I really gravitate towards women who are terrifying and don't seem to like me, and I try to win them over. And then that's why I get a 5 on the exam, but I remember that getting a 5 on that exam was a huge moment for me of like, it validated something that I needed. I was actually extremely exceptional at something, and that proved it. Whether or not it did. Like, I could have just had a test grader that day who was hungover and impressed by one sentence I said. Like, who knows what gave me that 5.
In literature as in life.
What?
In literature as in life. Sorry.
Is that a phrase? Or is that a famous
It's just
quote?
a dumb common phrase that everyone starts their stupid high school essays with.
Oh, I've never heard it before.
No, sorry.
But
I
was
thought
an
everyone would have
original
heard
thinker,
it and then laughed knowingly, but no one did. So we can cut that
started
out.
Let's talk about
5
more
essays,
of
though.
this when we get back of like these identities we choose and pursue, because I just realized that was a formative moment for me. So more on this when we get back. All right, we're back. Yeah, I just needed something to go off of that made me feel like I was never good at anything. I was never like, wow, you are better than than everyone. Does anyone else feel like they wanted that moment of being the best at something? I am a 3 Enneagram, and that is one of the major points of being a 3 is that you base your self-worth off of how you're perceived by others. But I don't know how you wouldn't do that. What the fuck else are you basing it off of? Other than an audience.
Interpersonal relationships.
Acceptance.
Service.
But that's still other people.
Self-love.
Still other people. Well, self-love is not, but like, what else would you base your self-worth off of rather than if your family thinks you're special, your friends think you're special, being special? Like, what else would there be?
Your own personal happiness. Utilitarianism.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Just
Being useful? I wanted to be the best figure skater
Right.
until I got cut. And then I got cut in the calf, and it stopped my career. But I definitely had a competitive streak for sure. But I
But were
I
you
also
one of the
had,
best?
No, and I knew it. And that's what I think that's a quality I've always had is I'm like, I guess I know I'm not the best, but I still am going to pursue things.
What
I
makes
think
you
I knew
pursue
that early
things
on.
despite knowing you can't be the best? Because that really, I'm not trying to sound.
Because I knew I had other talents. I was like, I'm a graceful figure skater. I'm not like this strong chick that ended up cutting my leg open.
Tanya?
Her name was, God, what was Tanya. It wasn't Tanya. She looked like Tanya Harding.
Okay, so
I
you
can't remember.
got Nancy Kerrigan, but it was by accident. She didn't like pay Jeff Galooly to do it.
Right.
Right.
Right. It was
Okay.
by accident.
She
But
didn't even
definitely
know
had a
Jeff
mullet,
Galooly.
and she looked like Tanya. But she was a powerhouse. And this is a theme in my life, like wanting to be the powerhouse, but knowing I'm not that. I'm like graceful and maybe like slightly wafy, but I have a certain talent. Like I was the graceful skater that could do like little frilly things, but I wasn't like, like triple axel, you know, I
Did
could
you
do a
want to be
double
that, or
axel.
were you? Was it once you realized that you had this other thing? Did you lean into that, or
I
were
wanted
you
to be
always kind of
first
fighting
place. I wanted to have the gold medal, and then I couldn't figure out why I was always getting like bronze and silver. I mean, this is in like rinky-dink competitions. And then eventually, I'm like, I guess I'm just not that great. Like you would see, they'd show videotapes of your performances back to back with the other girls, and I was like, I see what I am. I was like slower and just not as powerful, but you know,
That is
I
where you
had my own
see
thing.
something that you cannot describe is when you watch dancers next to each other and you just like they're all doing the same routine. They're all great. They're all at the top level of dancing. You know, you watch these TikToks. I don't know if you guys do, but I like watching dancing on Reels. I don't do TikTok, but when I say TikTok, just know I'm talking about Reels. I'm not lying. I really don't go on TikTok, but I'm not all whatever. It doesn't matter. So when I'm watching these Reels, you just gravitate towards certain dancers and you go, what? Sometimes I try to figure out what are they doing that the person right next to them is not doing, where I'm watching them. And it's not that they're more beautiful. Sometimes they're not. They're not as, there's one woman that's stunning, perfect body, everything going for her. And then there's a woman that is not any of those things. And she is bringing something else to it. And you go, what is it? And I sometimes can't even grasp onto it. And, that's always really fun for me to see that, because it does make you realize there's just little micro movements or like little things that are just born inside you that you can't even choose to do that make you special.
It's like Kim Kardashian said on a recent episode of The Kardashians,
Please
when she was
tell us.
trying to choose between the 90s archived crystal Dolce dress that was very classic versus what her stylist wanted her to wear, which was like this plasticky, like pleather. I don't know what it was, but she's like, no, don't wear the old thing. Like wear this new. You want to do something new and fresh and modern. And Kim's like, I can't explain it. I feel so good in this one. I just feel so myself and confident, and like I like how I walk. And her stylist was like, no, you want to pick the new one. And you could just tell by the way she walked, she was not comfortable in this new uncomfortable thing. I think
I
it's
relate
what
to
makes you
this.
feel sexy.
Well, what about when you're writing a song and you're trying to maybe you're trying to push yourself to maybe do something outside what's your comfort zone. So we always say like, trust your gut, but then there are other times where you have to push yourself into an uncomfortable position where this is something that you wouldn't normally do, but I'm going to go outside my comfort zone. When is which? There's always an argument for either one. Or stick to what feels good and what feels natural. And then there's times where people go, no, you need to challenge yourself and that's how you grow. Which is it?
I think
You
there's
gotta be having fun.
Yes.
there's in the talent code, it says that there's like a range that's like just 5% outside your comfort zone that you need to be in. But if you go too far out of your comfort zone, then disaster will strike. So that's I don't know if that applies to just like being generally comfortable or not, but like I think just getting slightly outside of it is the key, not too far outside of it
Right.
in order to improve at something.
I was doing that today, writing a song, and I was like, I really wanted to write it about this one thing, and I just couldn't get anywhere. And I'm like on day 3 of writing this thing. And then I revisit it today, and I'm like, just write about the real thing that happened. Just stop trying to write this other story. Just write about the actual real moment that you had. That was the inception of this song. And so I did. I wrote about because the song's called London Blues. And I really did have this day in London. I think Nikki and Chris were doing something. Maybe we had all just done a podcast, and I was walking to go visit my friend. And I just walked the entire day, and I was by myself. And then when I came home, I sang this song, and it was like kind of a finished thought in the bathroom in my hotel. And I was feeling lonely. I couldn't reach my boyfriend. He was on tour. I'm on tour. We're like 6 hours apart. We couldn't FaceTime. It had been like day 3 of no talking. Not that we didn't try, but it was just not working out. And so I just wrote a song about that. And I was like, I should have done this hours ago, and just like write about the real thing instead of trying to write this perfect song, you know. And it ended up being way more. I like the song so much more than I thought I would. And I think you just have to do that. Like, go to whatever is truest in you.
Right.
Maybe.
I think that's what you arrive at with comedy too, is like, what's the truest thought here? And like, but sometimes I just feel like the truest thing is just so bleak and sad. Like, but then that sometimes can be very funny. But
that's
I don't
you.
know. I just
You
think that there's so
are
many
kind of
conflicting
bleak.
things. Yeah. But I also
Like, you
hate
could
that about
probably write-
myself because people, I don't like being laughed at. And I think like a lot of times people are like, you're so funny, and they're laughing at me. Like, God, I would never be that. I'd never throw things around like that. And I would never honk like that. And I would never tell someone that blunt thing. And it's like, people are not laughing like, oh my God, I always just want to be liked. I want people to want to be me, I guess is the point. I want people to be like, man, I wish I was like that. And instead I feel into that most of the things that people are like, Nikki, we love you. It's all things like, you slam cabinets and you say really rude things unintentionally. It's like never anything that anyone would want for themselves. They're glad that it's me because it's funny to watch, but it's not a desirable trait. And I feel like
But it's
when I
true.
lean into that, it's like, okay, yeah, it's authentic, but it's nothing that anyone would ever wish for their daughter to have in them. It's like,
who gives a shit? Like, that's what's so great about you. I think like lean into that more because it's true to you. That is what makes you you. No one is like you. No one is like, there's a craziness about you that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's so funny and it's so unique. It's like no one is like you.
but
Why
you said
not?
craziness. No one wants to be crazy. And that I have shame
I don't
about that.
want
Why
to
would I
have
not have
normal
shame about
friends.
something that people go like, oh my God.
Because
Like,
everyone's crazy in their own way. Like, I'm weird. Remember the guy I dated that was a fucking weirdo? And then he kept telling me, you're not weird. I'm like, I think I'm a little weird. He's like, you're the most normal girl I've ever met. I'm like, fuck off. Like, you don't want to be weird at
I would
all,
love
Nikki?
that so much. I remember
Okay.
you saying that you were so, he called you a prototypical blonde girl
Oh
or
my
something,
God.
white girl.
Heteronormative.
Heteronormative. I
What?
would dream of someone describing me that way. I love
You
when someone's
are.
like, you're
You
like
have a nice
Barbie.
jaw.
And I'm like, you think I'm normal and plastic and like cookie cutter? Like, as much as I think that I do want to be seen and want everyone to be like, look at her and be exceptional. Like, I do want to just blend in more than anything. I want to be normal.
Nah, you should
And I
double
think
down.
that's
You're slamming cabinets. You start
It's easy
ripping
to do
cabinet
that.
doors off the handles.
easy to say that,
And then
but when you have a
scream.
lifetime of people going, Nikki, shut up, calm down. Oh God, here she goes again. Shh, Nikki, shh, you don't talk that loud in a restaurant. It is so hard to undo this shit. Like, I was just in therapy this morning talking about childhood trauma, which would not really categorize as trauma next to what so many people experience in their childhoods, because I had parents that were amazing and loved me and all of those things. But there's things that happened that, like, I've been waking up in the middle of the night and just feeling like super anxious, like 4 times a night. I wake up in the middle of the night and I go to pee, but I'm just like, I just feel like this tension in me that is like, I just feel like I want to burst out of my skin and I need something to self-soothe. And my therapist was saying, like, who do you need to comfort you in that moment? Like, what's going on for you? Like, who could you think of would ever, like, if you could conjure someone in that moment, who would it be? And I like started crying because I was like, honestly, like my sister, but not the way my sister is with me, like the way my sister is with Poppy. Like, my sister every night for Poppy, this is not a joke, she tucks her in and gives her a full body massage because Poppy demands it, including a face massage, just gentle face massage until Poppy falls asleep. And sometimes it can be an hour plus of just a full body massage every single evening for my sister, who has already given this girl everything throughout the day. And that's the kind of attention that, and then I started crying because I'm like, and she's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, it's not because I'm like, I realized what I need. It's because I'm embarrassed that I want something a 4-year-old gets and I want my sister to be my mommy, like, mama. It's so humiliating. And she's like, well, why don't we put the shame on the shelf for right now. I'm like, I wish I could. If you could just put shame on a shelf and let it sit there and fucking grow dust, I wouldn't be here, lady. Like, I can't put shame on a shelf. Shame is shame. If you can put it away, you would, but you can't. And it's so humiliating to feel all of these, everything that I feel, I'm humiliated by. And even saying this whole thing, I'm like, God, people have actual problems. And mine is that, like, sometimes in the middle of the night, I wish my sister would massage my face. And I'm like crying about how embarrassing that is. Like, people can't pay their fucking bills.
No, but I think everybody has a shame shelf inside. And everyone can relate to this.
You got to put it in a drawer at least. You shouldn't put your shame out there for everyone to
full
see.
display.
That's like the worst place
Believe
to
me,
put
I
your
have shameful
shame.
things in my bedside drawer. There's already like food and vibrators and like toenail clippings. No, you're right. That I do have a shame. It's just it's hard to bring up all of these things and feel like, and to admit that that's what you want is like your sister to massage your face, but not your sister as you know her, like your sister as your mom. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck is that? That was a breakthrough, but what am I supposed to do with that?
That's what I always say. Who cares?
And so tonight she told me, if you wake up in the middle of the night, instead of reaching for food, which I do to calm myself, and it gives me that like instant, like I just feel it overwhelming calm throughout my body. Like the ocean just like settles. There's like a crazy storm. And then all of a sudden it's placid waters after I eat something. And there's no need for me to do it. It's not like I'm hungry in the middle of the night. This isn't, it's some kind of chemical release. She was like, okay, imagine your sister massaging your face. And I'm like, I gotta fucking do that tonight. Like, this is so embarrassing to have to do these things.
You don't have
Why
to
can't I
do
just
that.
sleep through the night?
Yeah.
Don't go to the embarrassing part, because just try to sit with it and be like, all right, I need to be soothed now. Everybody wants to be soothed. I mean, so many of us don't have to be, because we're like, we have a partner or we have a dog. Like, you're out there without a partner. You don't have your dog. You don't have like a weighted blanket. So of course you want to be soothed by stuff. You know, anybody would want to be like, I want a full body massage now from Lauren.
Final thought. What do you guys do to self-soothe when you get into these? Like, because I was in this session and she was like, the way you're rubbing your hand right now, I was like rubbing my thumb like this. And then I was playing with my hair like this. I was just doing this. Like, she goes, who would do that to you? I'm like, my grandma, I think, would play with my hair if I laid in her lap. And I'm like, Mimi. But again, I'm 4. Like, why am I reverting? It's just
healing.
Like, I'm a woman. I should be able to like journal or listen to a podcast or meditate, but instead I'm just like, I want to suck my thumb is kind of how I feel about things. What just happened, Anya?
We're having a crazy thunderstorm.
Cool.
Oh my God, do you guys hear it? It's like,
no.
I'm going to jump into a garbage river with a keg.
Man, it'd be nice if there's a thunderstorm here right now. Break this heat wave. In terms of that, I this is one of those things that falls into the category of like, yeah, that's nice that you learned that, but I just feel like that's not practical information, and this is why I'm like down on therapy right now, because like the fact that you know that is like, to me, doesn't help in any way. It's just like, yeah, what you're saying. It's like, now you're crying about your grandma or whatever.
She said to massage my own face tonight, like the way I would think that a good mom would to myself. So tonight, instead of eating, I'm gonna massage my face. But it's
Brian, what would you do if you were in Nikki's shoes? Since you don't believe in therapy, like,
no, I
what's
believe
the
in
practical?
therapy. I believe in therapy. But I think because I believe in therapy, that's why I'm being so critical of it. And I'm like, can you just prove to me that this is good? It's like when you believe in a boyfriend or girlfriend, but they keep fucking doing stupid shit, and you're like, please just show me that you're gonna be good.
right.
But anyway, I spend like 2 hours every night trying to figure out the magic formula to soothe my aching bones, but it never truly achieves that.
Yeah, because your anxiety is pain. Like, that manifests in pain.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a roiling sea in your stomach.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I don't
don't
even know how to describe mine, but yours is pain.
I would much rather go back to the roiling sea in my stomach because it manifests in different pains. I do rounds like from like the program that I use, DNRS, which is basically like putting yourself in a positive memory and trying to place yourself in there and just like elevating your emotional state artificially and trying to sit in that emotional state and then let it travel through your body. That's
Yeah,
essentially
because
what
your
a round
brain,
is.
your subconscious like doesn't know the difference between a memory and like
Yes.
what you're actually feeling. So it can that's kind of a cool thing. But then I start to judge it and go, God, your life was so good, and that's never going to happen again. That's like I start to grieve that memory I'm reliving is not.
Well, that's why you go
anywhere
into
for me
the
to have
future
again.
also. You do a past and then you do a future memory. You do something that hasn't happened yet that's going to be great in the future. And it could be anything you want. It could be imagination. It could be fantasy. Or it could be like I did like my wedding day quite a lot when I was leading up to that. Do that. You can do, I'll do stretches. I'll do like yoga for like 15 minutes. Because sometimes when I fall asleep, my legs just feel really tight, and like, then I gotta sit in my bed and then I gotta lift my legs over my head and stretch them in the middle of the night. You ever have to do that? But if I do my yoga before bed, then I don't have to do that anymore. And then I do all my jaw exercises, and then I do my breathing, and then I do. I mean, it's just insane.
I was
This
doing
is all
breathing
part of the
exercises
rounds.
last night. I was breathing in because the one that helps you go to sleep is you breathe in for 7 counts. You hold it for 4, breathe out for 8. Breathe in for 7, hold it for 4, breathe out for 8. And that does calm my nervous system quite a bit.
Yeah.
But then I get really bored doing it and I start to resent that I have to do it, just like any exercise, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there to do in the middle of the night? Anya, what do you do when you can't sleep?
I have woken up Matt before and tried to talk things out, which has helped. But what really helps is writing out all my worries. Because then I'm like, okay, these are concrete. There's nothing more to think about because I've written them all out. And then if I can't think of any more, sometimes I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when I'm thinking and obsessing, it always feels like there's a new one. Oh, there's a new one. Oh, my parents are aging. What am I going to do with them? What do I have to do for work? What about money? What about this? What about this conflict I had with somebody? But when I write it all out, sometimes it's like, all right, so there's 23 things I'm worried about. Now what? And then it's kind of like my brain exhausts itself and I can finally go to sleep. But insomnia is a bitch. When my parents were here and leading up to the wedding, I did not sleep for 2 weeks and I developed bags under the bags in my eyes. So all my wedding photos, I look 10 years older than I am. It's wild. And then like the day after my wedding, I looked amazing because I slept.
I disagree. I think you look amazing in your wedding photos. Whatever was happening
you.
for you that day, like it counteracted how tired you were.
But I definitely thought of Brian a lot, how he didn't sleep a wink before the wedding. And I was just like, just lean into this. This is just how you just have insomnia right now and you won't in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it?
To get married?
Getting me.
Like you had to put your life on
Great
hold.
question.
You stopped songwriting. You
A wedding
were
or
sleepless
getting
for
married?
2 weeks. The wedding, because I have to say, based on the stress that I've seen, and even though you both say it was it was the best day of your life, I don't think I want to do what you guys did to yourselves.
That's true
In
for
any
many
way.
people. Well, the thing you got to remember about me is that I feel that way anyway, even without a wedding. So the wedding was just
Right.
like a nice little bonus. And it was. I feel like it's similar to when people have kids and then you look at them and you're like, you're not sleeping at all, and you can't do anything, and all your hobbies are dead now, and you have to put your career on pause, and then they still say that I would never change it for the world. I feel like that
Right.
about my wedding, where it's like, yeah, it was a lot of work and I took a lot of effort and there was a lot of stress and I didn't sleep, but I loved my wedding. I loved the day. It was the best day of my life and I would not change it for the world. Maybe the
I guess
world.
I don't really
If
have a
someone gave me
best
the
day of my
world-
life either, and I'd like to maybe have one where I'm like, that was the best day, and like, what did you say before that day? What was the best day of your life for both of you? Because Anya, I know you said your wedding was also the best day of your life.
I mean, definitely like certain dates with Matt have been the best ever. Or like, I remember a memory with my mom and my dad and my sister in San Diego. And we all we went to this fucking resort for a day and got massages and we were in the swimming pool and we were just giggling. We got the giggle fits. And I just never will forget that moment of like uncontrollably laughing in a swimming pool with my family. Girls trips, so fun. Just like laughing on girls trips, the Hamptons, Palm Springs girls trip. Where else have we got? New York. Oh my God. So many fun
those have been
times
some of the
laughing
best
with girls.
days of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think it was probably the day Trump got elected. Just kidding. No, I know it's truly like you have a bunch of moments that are like, these are amazing moments, and I use those in my rounds. But truly, the wedding stands head and shoulders above all those moments. So it really is like a clear number one front runner out of all the trips and all the family events and all the beautiful moments. And there was also great moments leading up to the wedding, like the bachelor party and stuff like that. And the engagement that also just add to the whole thing. But it's such a unique feeling to have like everyone in your life from all the different eras of your life to just being, eras.
Make you like Taylor Swift.
Bingo.
Everybody,
I'll do it now.
everybody from all the different eras of your life, everyone who's ever loved you is in the same place at the same time for the same purpose, just there
That
for
stresses
you.
me out because
There's only one problem. Nikki
You don't have time to
Glaser
talk to them.
has already had many like quasi weddings in her life.
Mm.
She's
But you're a
done
performer
Conan,
too.
the Tonight.
You have had
Yeah, but
big
you've
moments.
I've never had all the people I love in one place, and I would say you've gotten close to that.
pageant?
and it wouldn't.
I wouldn't
I
want
don't think you're-
anyone else at this. Like, yes, I've had many events where if my aunt was there, it wouldn't make it better. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Like a distant
Exactly.
cousin is
You
not
don't
going
need
to
to
make
have a
this any
wedding.
better. No,
Yeah,
I guess I just don't care about having every person because there's just I would be stretched too thin, and I think that's always the problem with weddings is like. You don't get to have, even you said it, Anya, you didn't get to have any meaningful conversations with a lot of people that you're like, they flew all this way. And all I could talk to them about was like what dish they liked best.
Yeah.
Or like how hot it was or whatever.
That was a 15 moment of post-wedding, postpartum blues of, I had a wave of that of like, oh my God, I can't believe my friend Heather from Portland came and I barely got to talk to her and I haven't seen her in years. But then it passed. It really was fucking the most insane day just to have such a small group of people that I love all together. And it's like, it's all about you. It's all about your love. I heard all these things from Matt I had never heard before. I was like, what? And it's just so tender.
Crazy that you have
and
to
sweet.
spend weeks of your life not sleeping so you can get your husband to tell you how he really feels. Though. You know what I
just
mean?
that.
Like, why do we have to go through all of that to get, maybe I'm
sure
being
I've heard
jaded.
it before, but you're right. It was like, there was a part of me that was like, why did you wait till today? But it was very, I don't know, like maybe that was his trump card too. It wasn't even like he said anything. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I also think, not to speak for Chris, but I feel like there's a chance that he wouldn't like it either. Like he would.
No, are you kidding me?
He's such a super
going to fucking yeah.
If he's such
I
a
won't
super
like it.
host, I think he'd be so stressed out. Or
No,
he would just be
loves
organizing
that.
everything.
He loves the stress of organizing and hosting. It's his element.
Oh, okay.
I will not
Yeah.
see him on our wedding day. I will barely talk to him. I will be like a distant aunt to him. He will be, and I've let him know this. I'm like, I'm stressed out about marrying you because I don't feel like I'll see you the whole day. And I'll feel like it will just be about us, like making sure everyone's wheelchair is in the right, like the saddest thing to me about weddings is seeing old distant aunts have to get on flights and like sit in an uncomfortable flight to go watch this niece that they haven't thought about in 25 years get married. And like they should be just like relaxing and doing their crossword
Don't
puzzles, but they
invite
have to be
them.
like, huh? What? And like there's a lot of like crowing going on, and like they have to put on like a fucking dress, and it's like just let them fucking die without adding stress to their lot. Like that bothers me.
That's why if you ever see an elderly woman on an airplane, you need to help them because they are on that plane
Yes.
for some reason that is really important to them, and they can't get their bag out of the top thing, and there's supposed to be a
Oh,
wheelchair
absolutely.
waiting for them, but it's never there. Help old ladies on planes.
And subways. If you see an elderly person with a suitcase on a subway, please help them up the stairs.
Elderly people in general, you just got. What about this, you guys? The other day, speaking of this, and then we'll really leave. I was at the baggage claim, and from my periphery, this woman looked very able-bodied. Like, you know, when you just see someone, just the shape of them. And I'm like, this woman's in her 30s, right? And then I saw her struggling with the bag and I gave it a second look and her face was old as the hills. She was an old woman, but she presented as a 30-year-old. And I felt so rude that I didn't, as soon as I saw that she was old as shit, I was like, oh my God, let me like assist you with this bag. And I almost felt like saying, but you looked so young at first. Like, I can't say that though. But then I saw your fucking old face. Until I saw your rotted apple face. And now, but I was like, she's okay. I felt like telling her that, like, you present as young until you turned around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always help old people.
Party in the back, old hag in the front.
But then I think a lot of times old people are like insulted that you're helping them because they're totally fine. I.e. my mom, like, can't, Nick, I got it. This is my bag.
She's
got
not
it.
elderly.
Yeah.
What?
She's not elderly though. We're talking like 75.
She's a broken
plus.
woman. She said that many times herself. And I'm always
Don't
like, Mom,
laugh
you're
about me.
old. Like when I'm 67, whatever my mom is, I think I'll be like, I'm old. I hope that I ask for
No,
help.
the 67 is
just-
not old. 67
I
is
just
the new.
screamed at my mom. Not screamed, but we got in a big fight because I was like, I have for years hired someone to clean her house for her. Not for years, maybe like 2 years, a year plus. Hired my cleaning woman to clean her house every other week because my mom has always cleaned the house. It is like the bane of her existence. It's constantly a thing that's worrying on her mind. EJ, get the shit out of the den. Oh, you're tracking stuff in. I just fucking mopped that. I just vacuumed in here. Can you please stop traipsing? Like, that's the reason I can do my mom's impression so well is that's all I heard my childhood is her I just cleaned that. Now I'm going to have to re-clean it. You leave shit everywhere. This is fucking ridiculous, you know? So I got her, as soon as I could afford it, I was like, I'm going to get you a maid. I would do it every other day for her. It is not that expensive to what and my mom's like, I wouldn't want anyone spending this much money. We're not doing it. And my dad's in the background going, and you don't even understand. She has to clean the house for 2 days before this woman even shows up. It adds more stress to her life. And I'm like, Mom, what can I do? She won't take help. What do you do? She just said, I'm going to pay her to not do it then. So you're just wasting my money. I'm going to pay her every other week, however much money it is. I'm going to look. I'm going to tell her to charge me for those Venmos, whether she comes or not. So you're just throwing money out the door. And that's how she's like, fine. If you're not doing that, I go, I will do that because I want to support her business. And so now my mom is forced to have her house cleaned every other week because otherwise this woman gets paid for doing nothing.
Damn.
It sounds like she's afraid of having someone in her house. Like there's a deeper fear here.
Oh, my mom's greatest fear is that everyone's trying to steal everything all the time from her house. And my mom hides
parents
things
have
and
the
hides
same thing.
jewelry and hides money and hides things and then forgets where she hides it. And so there's going to be it's going to be a fucking treasure dig. The gold rush when they move out. We're gonna find things all over the place.
She stole my stuffed crow.
Yes,
She stole.
I'm always like, what do you think people are gonna steal?
She
Nikki,
stole all the
your
dirt that was on the
dad
floor here.
Has arrowheads, and I'm like, they're
Nobody wants
replicas. No one wants arrowheads. They're not going. You could buy them on eBay. They're not even priced that high.
She's not
it's not
an
that
11-year-old Boy Scout cleaning your house.
All right, we have to go. Thank you guys for listening to the show this week. We really dug up some stuff today, and I appreciate you guys listening to my inner psyche and my inner child needing face massages. Thank you so much for listening. Don't be and just keep going to therapy. Don't give up. There's something there for you. Even though I don't know what to do with it, now I know where it comes from. Just don't put your shame on a shelf. Or do put it on a shelf. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm going to go. Bye.